Excuse me. Hello, Joanne. What's going on? That's gonna have to do. Jeepers, man. This is like a train wreck here. Okay. Okie dokie. Hello, Joanne. Greetings. This is TarotLumination. I'm doing one of my rare little things on a Sunday night now. It's a tarot reading here. It'd be great if you want to. It'd be great if you put a donation in there. I'll show you how. Hi, Necessary. How are you doing? I've got a visitor here, Joanne. She's in Aquarius and would like to know if her Leo ex got back with his Capricorn ex. Well, I don't know if I'm a fortune teller. I can do tarot readings. Fortune telling is a little different. Remote viewing. Let's have a look. It's very interesting that you're an Aquarius and your ex is a Leo. That's a very strong connection. Anyway, let me just say hi. Good evening. This is TarotLumination. It's Sunday night. It's 30th of March, 2025. We are in some very interesting times astrologically, historically, regarding the world, life, and everything. It's pretty spectacular. It's been building up for 250 years. We started around 1776 was the big revolution. America became America. and then we crafted our Constitution. Here we are 250 years later. We've lived through a complete Pluto cycle, and we're starting all over again. We have degraded and degenerated to the worst and the very, very lowest forms of behavior on the journey, to the point where everything turned into just one squalid, cannibalistic mess. But we're still alive. We, the people, we, the host, we are still alive, okay? Even though we have been cannibalized, vampirized by a bunch of horrific, monstrous, hollow, empty beings who like to think that they own and control the world. Well, that story is over. They are struggling. It's the same thing if you go to, let's say you're an extremely cruel person and you almost enjoy seeing something being like, actually that's not real. That's not, let me think of another way to describe this. I'm not going to talk about all this politics and war and global astrology tonight. I just want to say hello. I'm not used to doing the tarot too much anymore, but I'm going to say hello anyway. But I want to have a bit of a background because we are living in historical times. You might not know it, you might not be aware of it, because these things happen regardless, okay? So, 250 years ago, roughly, we had Pluto in Capricorn at 27.5 degrees. And the founders of this amazing country knew damn well that that energy would eventually surface in its worst form of behavior, having started off at its best form of behavior. So that's exactly what happened. The Constitution of our country prepared for that in advance. So here we are today, taking care of business. The beast that had taken over the United States is now being choked, slowly choked to death. It is a dying beast, and it is struggling, it is writhing, it is convulsing as it is starved of its fuel. Its fuel is money. The money that they steal from you, the people. So that is drawing to a close. It's a massive faucet. At the moment, the faucet is now being taken over by good people who can control the faucet, and they're slowly turning it off, just like one of those massive valves on an oil pipeline. I used to work in a factory when I was a kid that made those valves, so I know what they're like. And you can grind it off slowly, but eventually what happens, it's about the size of a big, huge steering wheel, and it slowly chokes off the flow of money to the deep state. So they are dying, and we the people are surviving. It's like our immune system is fighting back, and we're reclaiming ourselves. It's a beautiful thing, and I'm very, very happy to be alive to witness this at the same time. Now, that date I mentioned, January 2020, was even, excuse me, yeah, January 2020, that was a very critical day. Here we are 5 years later, and Pluto is now moved across the cusp all the way into Aquarius. There's no going back, no retrogrades going back over to Capricorn. We've entered a 20-year journey of revolution, chaos, upheaval. Ultimately, it is the reestablishment of freedom in its purest form that we can attain here on this planet. And that is defined by this. There are other levels of freedom which transcend all of it, but for that you have to be divinely tuned in to the divine. That would be the Neptune energy, the Pisces energy, the 12th house energy in its fullest, most beautiful, powerful expression of universal love. Love anyway. Compassion, patience, respect, kindness, humility, healing, all those good things. sadly, kind of like the Pluto journey, Neptune has its own ups and downs. And we've just lived through a 14-year journey of Neptune going through Pisces. And if you've noticed, the last 14 years or so, 15 years, that's how long it takes for Neptune to go through one sign. The last 14 years have been very, very telling, because that's the time period during which I became vividly aware of how bad things really are, at the same time that they're being covered up and presented as good. So I started to realize we are witnessing the tragic, unhealthy expression of Neptune energy across the world, and that culminated in ultimately pure evil. And the classic examples would be the ones that we're in major conversations right now across the world, to do with very, very bad things that adults do with little children, for example, and how America was almost destroyed by evil people with evil intentions, but it didn't work, because the healing power of love is mind-boggling when it actually gets triggered. Think of it as an immune system. And as Neptune grinded towards the last year, especially the last 6 months or so, Neptune reached the crisis degrees, 29, 27, 28, 29, 29 and a half degrees, where we are right now. We are on the cusp of Neptune moving into Aries. It's a very awkward cusp, at the best, okay? And so what we are witnessing is essentially the death and decay, the process of death and decay commencing full time for the evil entities that had consumed the world. I have a long list of evil entities that we could name, but I don't want to get into it much. I just want to get us up to speed right now with the core astrology, which is pivoting mostly around Pluto and Neptune at the moment, and the eclipses. 2 weeks ago we had the full moon eclipse. That was the Pisces Virgo axis, and now we just had the Aries new moon eclipse. And it's very, let's say, disconcerting for a lot of people. It's going to be difficult to interpret the energy, how to make the best out of it, because it's like we're coming out of 15 years of a massive hangover, and you can't fix it just like that. There's a lot of pain and suffering across the world. There's billions of people who are hurting very, very badly as a result of evil intentions that didn't have to be, but people seem to be very good at very self-destructive, really purely evil behavior. And so if you're one of those people, they can't help themselves. That's who they are. That's what they do. They basically operate through lies, deception, betrayal, blackmail, theft, corruption, everything that's evil, while presenting themselves as the most godly saviors you could ever wish for. That's how they manifest their evil energy. And the beautiful thing is that Saturn has helped for the veil of deception to be lifted such a way. In other words, Saturn is acting as the great adjudicator, the great taskmaster, the great reality check. Basically, Saturn in Pisces is saying to Saturn and Neptune, enough is enough. The game is over. You're being called out. You're going to be brought to justice. And that's what's happening. That's what we're witnessing in America, without me naming obvious names. So I consider that we're very, very lucky to be here at this time, astrologically, with world history and everything. Let me go to the charts for a minute. I just want to get this on the record. Okay, as I kind of suspected, things would go very, very wimpy for me over the eclipse itself. 2 days before the eclipse, I was feeling very weak and very fragile, as I expected. I don't plan it. I don't want to be that way, but it's a regular pattern for me regarding the lunar cycle. So I didn't freak out. I just go with the flow. The eclipse has already passed. We've already had the Aries new moon, and we're just moving on. I'll show it to you in here in just a second. And then I just want to give an example of an eclipse story. I'm going to share it, but I'm not going to name names or anything like that, okay? I'm just going to describe the situation. So tonight, right now, this is what our little astrodoodle looks like. There's Pluto in Aquarius at the beginning of its 20-year journey. Here is Neptune in Aries, 0 degrees at the beginning of its own 14-year journey. So you combine this with this, it's a massive, massive, fundamental change in history. And it's going to show in the history books decades from now, maybe hundreds of years from now, certainly with America, okay? Later on, 2025 is a very historic year for the whole world. Later on in 2025, Uranus is going to be grinding over into Gemini, and Gemini is going to be grinding over into Cancer. Very soon, Mars is going to be grinding over into Leo. We're going to have a massive Leo-Aquarius polarity, and I don't want to scare anybody, but it is a very warlike aspect. Mars opposite Pluto, regardless of the signs. But when you add Leo and Aquarius oppositions, it is a fight for freedom. Okay? The Leo energy is going to activate the President of America and the Vice President of America to take action. Mars action. If necessary, go to war to do what has to be done to maintain and recalibrate and reestablish our freedom for we the people, okay? So brace yourselves, all right? Next thing with Neptune and Aries is that, thanks for the notes necessary. I remember doing some studies on this quite a while ago. Neptune and Aries coincides with the Civil War of America. What was it, 1861 or something, okay? So Neptune is not happy in Aries. It's going to be a 14-year journey. They are incongruent types of energies. Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars is the god of war. Mars is the energy of fight. It's fight or flight. It's the energy of war. It's the energy of survival, getting what you need to be you, doing what you have to do to get what you need to be you, your right to live, your right to survive. Okay? At the same time, Neptune is the planet of peace and love. Peace, 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 universal love. So they are very out of whack. The planet and the house and the sign are very out of whack with each other. And it's going to show in world history. There are going to be some very warlike activities at the same time as people begging for peace and harmony. Tonight, right now, we have this cluster. This is where it's been also quite confusing for people, because there's little Venus, there's little Mercury. Both are retrograde. They have been in Aries for a while, but they're the planets whiz around like this. But when they go retrograde, it goes whoa, whoop, 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 whoop. So right now, Venus and Mercury are retrograde, and Venus has already moved back into Pisces over here. It was in Aries. Mercury is heading into Pisces over here. So just at the same moment that Neptune has moved out of Pisces into Aries, we've got Mercury and Venus moving into Pisces from Aries. At the same time, Saturn is getting very, very close to Neptune, and late in a few weeks or months, Saturn and Neptune will both be in Aries at the 2-degree mark. That's a massive, powerful conjunction. I'm going to be watching very carefully. Tonight the sun is already over here in, what is it, like about 10 degrees or something. And the moon has already moved on into Taurus. Yesterday, the moon was over here. That would have been the new moon eclipse. New moon in Aries. So with eclipses, I look at them as evolutionary gateways, okay? Where you're living your life. I'll have to do my doodle. I'm just going to have to do it. You're living like, here's an elevator shaft, okay? Inside a building or something like that. It's got a door here, the door here, and it's got the doors at the top, okay? It's a double door, double-sided elevator. You're living your life here, doopy-doopy-doo. The eclipse happens here. The door opens for you to enter the eclipse. Boom, you're inside the elevator. The eclipse moves everything forward, leaves everything behind, eclipses anything and everything that's irrelevant, and moves up to the next stage of evolution over here. And sometimes it's very disturbing for you, the person, okay, or the people or the world. And so you're thinking, oh no, I can't handle this. I'm going to go back down here and out here. The problem is this door is locked now. This door is locked now. So there's no exit path. Your only option is to go forward here. So it's an evolutionary gateway. When people try to resist the movement of evolution, they're going to encounter resistance, and they get stuck in an evolutionary tide pool where it's just frustration compounded by anxiety, stress, and devolution. People get scared at this part here because it's almost like they can feel it happening in real time. And so for some folks, depending how you're tuned in, you might come out of the other side thinking, whew, wow, that feels good. If you're not prepared, or you're due for an evolutionary upgrade, which would include, let's say, stripping away, eclipsing anything that's irrelevant now in your life, according to divine ordinance, then you might end up like this. Okay? Not so much fun. However, life moves on. So what do? You adapt. So that's where we are. It just started. And this, of course, would have been building up for weeks or months or even a couple of years just to get to this point. That's where we are. That's where we were yesterday over here. But we're moving on. The moon is whizzing forward as it does. So there. Okay. Just want to give me a second here. I got to just check in on something. Sorry about that. Thank you for your patience. I just want to tell a little story about the eclipses. I've talked enough about the world, America, the evolutionary gateways, and so on. Let me go over here. Hello, Necessary. Thanks for the guidance. Yeah, if anyone here and you really want a reading and you want to put in a donation, do not do Super Chat. I will never get it. YouTube will not pay me, okay? Really, the only way you can donate is by going over here. I'll show you. You can, on a device, any kind, you can go to TarotLumination.com, click the donate button. Up will come a payment processor through PayPal. You don't have to use PayPal directly if you don't want to, as far as I know. You can just scroll down and click credit card, debit card transaction and just fill in the number. It's like online shopping, okay? So that's how that works. I just thought I'd mention it. So, I feel very, very blessed because I don't feel directly impacted by the eclipses in a way that a lot of people might be impacted, mostly because I try to stay tuned in and get myself aligned already in advance. because when I do these astrology reports, I do them pretty much every day, and then I just share them over on my Rumble platform. But I also use them as like a weather channel, so that I can navigate my own life accordingly, so I don't have to suffer from huge storms or earthquakes, volcanoes, fires, from the spiritual astrological perspective. In other words, okay, if I know that there's something very demanding, important up ahead that's coming, where I have to take a lot of responsibility and do a bunch of stuff, then I get myself aligned for that. If something looks like, I'm going to get a nice break here, I'll enjoy that. And look at it this way. I've had a very, let's say, turbulent life, a very nomadic, turbulent life, and a lot has been stripped away already. Anything irrelevant to my evolution has already been ravaged, and I'm left with who I am and what I have. And in some ways it's a very serene, blissful way to be. Sometimes it's a little bit frightening, because you start thinking like, my God, how on earth do I survive or exist on this planet at all? But I'm here to tell the tale. Anyway, here's a story. It's about a friend of a friend. She's a lovely, wonderful, loving, caring person. She's the boss of about 12 employees, very devoted, hard-working employees. She's had a bit of a tragic history recently with friends and family, deaths in the family, some huge unplanned expenses that have to be reimbursed through loans, loan repayments, and so on and so on. Multiple health issues, spinal issues, pain and suffering issues, and so on. But she manages to stay joyful and keep going anyway. And I've just, as an observer, okay, I'm not taking sides or anything, as an observer, I've been noticing the degradation of quality of life over the last couple of years for this lovely person. And I would offer a comment, well, what about this? What about that? Have you considered this? Have you considered that? And I'm not trying to deliberately help out or anything. It's just that I'm sometimes I'm there, and if I can offer help, I do. But ultimately, we have to live our own lives, And to see somebody having to go through a slow cascading effect of worse and worse and worse situations and conditions and circumstances, to get to the point where there's been major financial losses due to simply trying to survive, juggling this aspect of personal finance, that aspect of personal finance, just to get along day to day, just like anybody watching this video trying to get along and survive and live a life here in America. Usually, if you're not a trust fund baby or some kind, it usually means you have to have a job, make money, and pay bills. Often that includes credit cards, auto loans, rent, mortgages, previous debts, college, everything. A lot of money going out the door and only so much coming in the door. And I just witnessed things just getting worse and worse and worse. Increasing health problems compounded the challenges at work, making it harder and harder to bring in a suitable income. Other aspects of her personal life compounded things even worse. Deaths in the family and so on. More expenses, less ability to work, more stress, more pain, compounding the problems. Then the owner of the building in which she runs the business with 12 employees, the owner of the building suddenly just died. The inheritance went to another person and an ex-wife that have already basically pretty much shut down the place in a matter of a week or so. So that came as a radical shock to this dear person. And so it's just another level of compounding worse upon worse upon worse situations. And so, as a casual observer, you'd be wondering, like, how on earth could this innocent, sweet person end up in such a dire, shitty, horrible situation, cascading to worse and worse and worse? So you have to look at it. You have to dig very, very deep. So if you do an astrology reading, eventually you would go back down to Pluto and Neptune, and you would look for hard aspects to Pluto and Neptune in the chart. And that might give you some clues towards the evolutionary journey of this lifetime, as opposed to what appears to be the journey of this lifetime. What appears to be a journey in this lifetime is usually observed and experienced through Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, the personal planets. Then you start to get a little bit transcendental when you go out to Jupiter and Saturn. You're thinking of things like good luck and good fortune, or like amazing circumstances. Wow, that was fantastic. Or something horribly crappy just happened. Oh, I didn't deserve whatever it is. So there's the Jupiter's the good news, Saturn's the bad news. It all seems out of control, out of our control. And then you go through another transition, and that's when you get to the impersonal planets, the transpersonal, the impersonal ones that are like mostly beyond conscious awareness. That would be Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And that is where a lot of incongruities are buried in our soul. And that is where our soul often needs the most healing. And that is where we choose to come into a particular lifetime in order to enact the healing that is needed. And a lot of healing is to do with removing obstacles to your spiritual health and well-being. So let's say at the personal side, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, you're dealing with a life that looks like what I just described. This person with very good intentions, very sweet, loving character, helping 12 other people to stay alive and earn their livings. And all of a sudden, it explodes. It's just gone, literally in a matter of days. Everything. That would be catastrophic. Go back to what I was talking about with the eclipse. The eclipses are evolutionary gateways. I use the word evolution because that leapfrogs all the way from your personal planet life all the way to Neptune and Pluto, way out to the impersonal aspects, which are more correlated with the depths of your soul, of which you may not have any conscious awareness. And so when you encounter a huge discrepancy between what you think should be an okay life, because you got this and this and that and this and that going, and everything's been going okay, so why should there be a problem if you've been managing as well as you can? Whereas deep at the soul level, the soul is calling out and basically saying, excuse me, we're reaching a precipice here, and I'm trying to give you a heads up. You might want to rearrange your life accordingly so you don't fall down the precipice. But of course, at the personal level, we don't hear it most of the time. It takes a louder and louder and louder and more blunt message to come from the depths of the soul to the personal level of awakening before we realize we're dealing with evolution rather than just day-to-day business. Evolution is usually beyond people's comprehension. It's just something like, oh, what happened? And so with the eclipses, like 2 weeks ago, this person was made aware of the horrific circumstances that just landed in her life. Bam-o! There's the full moon eclipse on full display about the reality of her life, the physical, personal reality. That was a very blunt message from the depths of the soul. And the message ended up being so big and so powerful and so painful and so blunt, but at least there's an awareness now. 2 weeks later, the ramifications and implications of that situation have now hit very, very hard. The news arrived yesterday that everything is basically gone. So that's 12 people out of work plus her. The cash flow is just vaporized for this person in her life, which means all the other fragile money situations in her life are now completely, not just awkward, they're completely, utterly compromised. It's a very bad situation. It's not even something that you can just eliminate by filing bankruptcy. It's just bad. And so the message I'm trying to get to here is with the Aries new moon eclipse, it's a new start, it's new beginnings, new awakenings, time to be the new you. Aries especially wants to be reborn as like, this is me, this is how I am. And if it's being, let's say, expressed in such a way in this lifetime that it's actually a very painful awakening, then we can allude back to this version of the evolutionary gateway. There's the elevator, the double-sided double-door elevator, okay? There's you living your life for years and years and years and years. It comes over here. There's you living your life, time, Saturn, 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 Saturn. Oh, look, there's the full moon eclipse. Bam! Whoa, something really shitty just happened. Oh, no, oh, no, oh, no, oh, no, it's getting bad. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Well, bam! What's going to happen is it's just whatever you were made aware of just then is now being completely obliterated, completely eclipsed out of your life. Everything that you knew, everything that she knew before this moment in time is now essentially redundant, dead, over. The only thing that remains is this. Life moves on. So, because she was so profoundly unprepared and unaware of the depths of dislocation between her day-to-day life, so to speak, and the evolutionary journey of her soul that she would have chosen before incarnating in this lifetime, she's finding out in a very brutal, painful way going forward. It's going to be, I don't know I don't know how to help. Very, very painful. A lot of overheads, all those people dependent on her. Now, she's not only screwed up, but there's 12 other people screwed up. I'm lucky. I have mostly this. I'm feeling mostly this version of evolution myself, because this phenomenon is affecting everybody on Earth. Whether you're a poor person in Bangladesh or Myanmar and you've been blasted by an earthquake, whether you're a Silicon Valley titan, whether you're a president or a king or a queen or a tyrannical communist monster, this applies. And it's brutal. It's an absolutely brutal eclipse because we're very, very tight on the cusps here with Aries and Pisces. And it's been building up with a lot of pressure because there's so many planets compressed. I feel so fortunate that I do my own personal astrology like this every day. It gives me a heads up. It's just like, holy shit, I don't want to get trapped into one of these things. The last thing I want is this, okay? So here's one of the reasons I feel fairly confident in describing the story the way I'm doing it, is because I've had a lot of this. A lot of this. I've had to learn the hard way that there is an alternative. When you feel the pressure to evolve, you have to evolve, which means having to submit to the pressures of evolution, which might mean having to say goodbye to whatever you feel is or was appropriate for your life. And if you don't want to do that, the eclipses will do it for you. Bam-o. So that's my little story about eclipses and how they can affect people. That's just one storyline. Some people, of course, will be completely oblivious. Some people, it'll be a reverse story. It'll be a moment of happiness and joy. Periods of horror and pain and suffering will be historically removed and replaced by little seedlings of serenity. Anyway, let's have a look here. Let me check out with the chat. I'm just watching the chat here. Hello, Diana. Hello, Love Driver. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Joanne. Pluto is transiting your sun, okay? You're in Aquarius, okay? So you have a 20-year journey ahead of you where you're going to feel some profound transformations in a very, very slow manner. If you had a Leo X, okay? There's Leo, there's Aquarius, right? If you had a Leo X, one thing you have to know about relationship dynamics, for example, okay, because Venus and Mercury are both retrograde right now. They were in Aries, they're heading towards Pisces, and then they'll come back to Aries. So when you look at these combined, Venus and Mercury, both retrograde, what do you get? Anything and everything that can go wrong in communications regarding relationships will go wrong. Okay, that's how it works. And then that gives you a chance to view what's not working, which gives you a chance to repair what's not working, assuming you still value the core essence of the relationship in the first place. That's the Venus side. And there's the communication side. Venus and Mercury are part of the personal planet groups: Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars. So if you're experiencing conflict with an ex-Leo, but there's still an ongoing energy, you have to understand that that's an energy of polarity. Aquarius and Leo is a polarity. I don't know your exact degrees, but anyone who is operating in an opposition type of relationship, I mean, that's just as common or not common as anything. Like somebody might be a Scorpio sun married to a Sagittarius sun, or somebody might be a Gemini hooked up with a Leo, and maybe they get along famously at first, but they didn't do their deep dives. You never know what's going to happen until you do the deep dive astrology. But if you're already operating or have experience operating in a full-blown opposition, in other words, Leo Aquarius, that means Joanne, you've got some significant depths of soul going on, because it's actually pretty challenging to have an opposition, a full-blown opposition in day-to-day relationships, especially with an ex or a partner, like boy, girl, man, woman, partner, mate type of thing, because there's nowhere to hide. That's the opposition right there. There's an opposition, and it correlates to the Libra Aries axis: self, other, other, self. And so with a relationship like this, there's nowhere to hide. You will be fully aware of what's ever dysfunctional about your ex. Your ex will be fully aware about everything that's dysfunctional about you. Both sides typically blame each other for whatever's not working in the relationship, but if they're both very mature, very evolved, very loving, and very caring, and they do really appreciate each other, they will understand that they have something very valuable. If you have a healthy polarized relationship, it can be the most valuable thing in your life. It's like having a very good marriage, okay? Very good marriages are pretty rare, because it's very, very hard to get to the point of evolution where you can handle a full-blown 180-degree opposition. So, Joanne, you must have already done a lot of homework in your soul, and vice versa with the X. The problem is, with the retrogrades here, and the inevitable moments when there's going to be a clash, opposition, because there's nowhere to hide, it could feel very painful, or things could explode. And just, that's it, done, over with. Sometimes what can happen with a polarity like that is that both parties realize, like, oh my God, what on earth was I thinking of going out with you? The other one says, like, I have no idea. I was just going to ask the same thing about myself and you. What on earth was I ever thinking about going out with you? You're the worst. Forget it. It's over. And you swear to yourself, I'll never do a Leo again. I'll never, ever do a Leo again. And then Leo says, I'll never do an Aquarius again. So that can happen just as much as it can be the most valuable thing you have. So, who knows? All right, let me have a look. What else is going on here? Yes, I do take donations. If you're a multimillionaire, please put in at least 1% of your net worth. Thank you. Oh, it looks like I just got a booking. Okay, we're going to do a reading soon, folks. We got a booking. Okay. So, what's that? Diana. Hi, Diana. Garnet McCleary Price. Oh, that is a classic name. That sounds awesome. Hello from England. Jolly old England. Well, Garnet, I have to say, you're a Capricorn here. Ah, the noble Capricorn, of course. Noble Capricorn. Yes, I have a dear brother who is a extremely noble, classic Capricorn. I love him very much, and he loves me. So, Garnet, in case you're not aware, I lived for years over in England. I lived during a more classic period compared to what you have today. I know that there were some Pakistanis up in Bradford and so on, and it's nothing like what it is today. And I have a very big soft spot for England. I still have friends and family over there. I have a sister over there. She lives down in Cornwall, near Falmouth. I haven't been there in years. I went there because my mom died there, and I went to her funeral. I went there because my dad died there, and I went to his funeral, but that's years ago now. What do I miss so much about England? One of the things I miss about England is that it's a shitty climate, but people find ways to be happy anyway. And what I notice is that unless you're a farmer, you have to spend a lot of time indoors because the weather can be so miserable. And so people are very, very socialized. They hang out in pubs, they hang out in tea shops, and so on. They hang out in each other's homes, their parlors, their living rooms, the kitchen tables, and so on. They go to meetups and events. They go outside in brutal weather to get to somewhere else where they can hang out and socialize together. And because the atmospheric pressure can be so low, if you look at the climate charts, for example, huge amounts of gray, gloomy, low pressure, very high humidity, cold weather, it's an easy recipe to be miserable. So what do people do? They drink beer, and then they complement that with tea, especially Old English tea. Lots and lots of caffeine, huge brown teapot, loaded up with real English tea, stewed for at least 15 to 20 minutes. Then you pour it in your cup, add your milk and sugar, and you're good to go. It's got probably half as much, double the amount of caffeine as your average coffee. And I didn't know any of that until I realized years later, like, wow, I love British tea. And I love British beer. It's just like 5, 6, 7, 8% alcohol. And I loved hanging out in pubs. I loved to go to a pub at lunchtime and have my ploughman's lunch. Beautiful piece of Stilton or Irish cheddar or something with a chunk of, sourdough bread or Irish soda bread or something, lump of cheese, and a pickled egg or a pickled onion. Yeah. So anyway, I miss that. The other thing I miss about England is that it's an extremely compressed environment. There's about, today, 60 million people on an island about the size of, I don't know, California plus Oregon plus Washington, something like that. Right, nothing better than a nice cup of tea. I used to be very good at spotting locations in England by the person's accent. Are they from Newcastle, Aberdeen, Edinburgh, Liverpool, London, East London, West London? Are they posh? Do they speak BBC English? Are they part of the upper class? It's a very striated country and economy. And, there's what they call it, the Green Welly Brigade. And your Belstaff and your Barber jackets. So whenever you're going out fox hunting or something, or you're going to the pub, you put on your green Belstaff or Barber jacket thing and your green wellies, and everybody knows that you're part of the middle to upper class. Yep, just by looking at you. Yep. I miss all that stuff. Yes, I do. Of course, it's changed now. You're not allowed to say anything about anybody in England anymore. Especially about the new arrivals in the last few years who have been swarming over your beautiful country. It's very sad. It's frightening. Actually, to me, it's frightening. All right, so let's do a reading. Let's get on with it. Yorkshire. It's been a very long time for me, and I used to be pretty good at mimicking the accents. North Yorkshire. I used to be able to do, if I lived in Norwich for a while, I said Norwich. If you live from Norwich. Or if you're in the southwest, like Bristol, correct Bristol. And you got to speak correct Bristol. That's correct Bristolian English. Correct Bristol. If you're part of the elites, of course, you speak as though you are a member of the royal family. And you were educated to prepare yourself for a job, respectable employment at the BBC. I never made it, of course, as you can tell. So anyway, here we are today, 30th of March, 2025. We just came out of the eclipse. Good news, bad news. It's really bad for some people. It's really bad for some countries. The story I just told about this dear person, this sweet woman, is very similar to what can happen on a global scale with certain countries. There are certain countries who were going down a certain pathway that was inevitably going to lead to a very poor outcome. And that's what's happening to some of those countries. That includes millions, tens of millions of people. So, all right, how are we going to do this? All right, let's pack things up here a little bit. We're going to go over and do a mini reading. All right, let's, I'm going to shuffle, I'm going to clear the deck, shuffle up the cards, and we're going to start on a reading, because I got a booking already. I'm going to keep this. brace yourselves, okay, everybody? You might want to have a brief conversation with your invisible friends and ask them to hover over you, or come very close, sit behind you, sit with you, sit at your side, hold your hands if you have to, just to get through the readings, because you never know what's going to happen. Let's have a look here. Okie dokie, I gotta go. Okay, the stage is set. I think we're good. Looks like we have a live transmission. Oh, there's a couple people here. Thank you for folks being here. Christ, it's been an hour. I haven't even started the readings yet. Jeepers. Okay, anyway. You see, the thing is, before I got into the readings, I'd only just heard about the situation with this friend. Well, it's friend of a friend. And it struck me, my God, this is classic eclipse in the more, let's say, painful version. But eclipses are what they are, and that's why sometimes people are terrified of eclipses. You know, in the ancient days of mythology, eclipses would be spooky events. You know what happens on an eclipse? Whoa, that kind of stuff. Anyway, we have advanced information. We have intel. So it gives us a better chance of navigating the evolutionary gateways of life. All right, here we go. Now, for newbies, anybody here, this is one of my decks. I really keep things simple. I only use 3 spreads. They're custom built by myself for me and my purposes. And when I do these live shows with the mini readings, it's just really a diagnosis, because I mean, people don't, the only reason people end up on this show is because it's like, you know, divine ordinance, like, especially if they're actively looking for a reading, it's because they couldn't get an answer from their boyfriend, their girlfriend, their mom, their dad, their spouse, their kid, their therapist, their doctor, their best friends. Nobody. And they end up like, oh man, what am I going to do? Astrology? Whoa, that's freakish. Tarot? That's even more bizarre. Well, maybe, wait a minute, why not? Okay, so that's why we're here. So if you think of this as a diagnostic tool, just imagine you're living your life and things are sputtering. Imagine you're a car and your check engine light is flashing. Come on, come on, come on, fix me, fix me, fix me. But you don't know what the problem is, so you go to your auto tech place and they plug in their little black box, and then they go to the computer and they pull it all out, and the computer says, you've got a messed up mass air sensor. Yep. Combined with a screwed up catalytic converter. There you go. You got to reveal it to heal it. Now you know what the problem is. Now you can fix it. So there you go. That's all we're doing here. It's called my situational spread. What's the situation? Okay, here we go. So Love Triper, we're going to go completely wild and free. Here's the situation. Here's the challenges. Here's how we're going to handle things. And let's have a look at external influences. Of course, I usually default to the planets, but we'll see what happens. Let's have a look. So we've got the 8 of Wands here. Now, this is, to me, is kind of exciting. I'm directly correlating this with the new starts and new beginnings with the Aries new moon eclipse. And even though a lot of times eclipses can be very unsettling and disturbing things, if you've gone through a lot of evolutionary gateways in your life already, and you've become better and better at navigating your life going forward, so that you almost like deliberately choose your evolutionary steps, so that, and then you prep for them so that when they arrive, it actually feels kind of good. You know, there might be all sorts of pain and suffering, but that's part of life, part of evolving. But then you can pat yourself on the back afterwards and say, whew, that's kind of cool. I actually survived. I'm kind of cool. I don't feel too bad. In fact, it makes me feel like I wanted to commit to life more than before. Especially when you look around the world and realize how shitty life is for so many other people. So that is kind of, to me, this looks like a form of awareness. The Eight of Wands is like a big boost of energy, a very welcome boost of energy that anybody could appreciate. What it looks like in detail, of course, that's a very personal thing. However, that arrives in your lap, in your world, it is what it is. It might be something very deep and subtle, or it may be something spontaneous and just awesome and right in your face. But either way, this looks like a very welcome type of energy to enter your life. Let's have a look. What's the situation itself? Ho, ho, ho! No messing around here. Okay, so with the Page of Swords, the indication is that you have made the decision to be utterly ruthless about eliminating anything and everything that is no longer relevant to your life on a wholesale level. Not just the little details, but everything. Okay. Now, of course, there are some raw essentials that you have to have. And so with this, it indicates to me that you've already taken care of that in previous chapters in your life. And what you're doing now is fine-tuning. It's about fine-tuning your life by strategically, surgically removing very, very carefully, one element at a time, anything and everything that at your conscious level is no longer relevant, appropriate, healthy, or useful in your life going forward. What does that look like? I don't know. Friends, family, information, attitudes, beliefs, whatever it is that is no longer, let's say, operational, it has to go. It's just like, when you have a computer or something and it degrades over time, it's overloaded with files, it's a very old operating system, and so on and so on. You can do a complete factory reset. You can go inside your computer and with a breath of fresh air and courage, you can say, you know what, it's time. I can't take it anymore. I'm going to do a complete factory reset. You go deep inside your computer, press a few buttons, blah, 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 blah. You save your most important files, blah, 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 over there, clickety click, put it on a thumb drive or whatever you're going to do in your life, your thumb drive of life. And then you go, ding, press the button. And then about 45 minutes later, you have a brand new computer. So it's the same analogy with your life, okay? That's what I'm trying to get at here. It's like in the old days, they call it defragmenting your computer. What are the challenges here? Obviously, you don't want to lose anything that translates as happiness. In other words, oh gosh, I don't want to be too brutal, too severe, too ruthless with the, let's say, the elimination and the calling out of the truth about what actually has to be, surgically. Okay, let's look at this. Sorry, look at this Page of Swords again. This is not a nasty energy. This is just a very calm, cerebral, pure, pristine type of energy for you, Love Triber, where you can methodically go through things and just call out bullshit. You can call out bullshit on a person, a belief, an attitude, on yourself, whatever it is, and say, that's it. I've been lying to myself for years about blah, 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 blah. That has to stop. Out the window. Gone. Bye. And so the thing is, at the same time, like a lot of people, you get used to a certain status quo. And if your status quo translates to a certain degree of happiness, it's absolutely terrifying at the concept that you might accidentally delete, remove, or have things removed against your will by an eclipse, anything that might threaten your happiness, obviously. So it's kind of a battle, like, well, wait a minute, wait a minute, I know I'm supposed to do this, and I know I want to do this because I want to have a complete refresh on life. I want a complete reboot and everything. But, oh no. If I do that, I'm not going to be happy because I'm going to lose that thing, person, place, thing, blob, information, stuff, whatever it is. Oh, that might make me unhappy. I don't know. Anyway, so how do you proceed? Because these are kind of like, you know, you might feel it's incompatible. Like, how am I supposed to do this properly and stay happy at the same time? Well, don't forget, it's like you're being provided with the fuel from the universe, from heaven, to go through this process. It's almost like saying, you know what, you're going to be fine. Love Tribe, you're going to be just fine. Just do what you got to do. Yeah, it might make you sad. Maybe you're going to be sad at, you know, having to like cut this, cut that, or just call out bullshit on this, call out bullshit. Yeah, maybe. But we'll figure it out. So how are we going to figure this out going forward, dealing with it? Evolution. There we go. Death, transformation. Don't be scared. Death is the card of transformation. This is very, very much to do with Pluto. So, Pluto is basically calling you at the very depth of your soul to understand that you've got an epic journey ahead of you. Let's turn this into, instead of a short-term mini reading, let's turn this into a long-term reading and how it correlates to the historic stuff that is happening in the heavens right now. Because this is history. Right now, what we're dealing with Pluto and Neptune, this is history on a grand scale. It will show up in the history books hundreds of years from now. If they still have books back then. So, the Pluto transit is very important for you. The Neptune transit is very important. This journey is 20 years. This journey is 14 years. There's going to be ups and downs, of course. With Aquarius, it's ruled by Uranus, so it's very hard to predict the exact nature of the ups and downs. With Neptune, it's very hard to predict the physical reality of the ups and downs because Neptune is notorious for looking like one thing and being another. And when you try to nail it down and say, oh, I figured it out, you realize, oh, I thought I'd figured it out. So just prepare yourself for a long journey of, I would say, evolutionary events that are going to pop up on a regular basis, okay? As the astrology whizzes around for the next 20 years or so, there's going to be high spots and low spots. You know, when Pluto is very well aspected or when it's very poorly aspected. We got both right now. But let's say there's just a big pile of green stuff for Pluto. That could be good for you. Let's say there's a big pile of green stuff for Neptune. That could be very good for you. And then you plan ahead with all the scary stuff. Then you know in advance, I have certain challenges coming up. I can deal with that. Ha ha ha. Yeah. So when I see this card, it's like, you know what? Dear Love Triber, bring it on. Bring it on, okay? Bring it on. Though I walk through the valley of death, I fear no evil, for I am, whatever the expression is, surrounded by God, or something like that. I can't remember. Of course, a lot of people are terrified of this card because they're terrified to evolve. They want everything to be nice and stable and secure. All you have to do is look at the global financial markets, and you'll see what I'm talking about. The global financial markets like to be everything perfectly stable and predictable so that the global banking cabal can exploit we the people accordingly. They're terrified of market instability or market unpredictability because they don't know if they're going to win or lose. So that's terrifying. Fear of the unknown. But when I see this here, this is a call to courage. Grasp all this beautiful energy here and make the decision to charge forward into the journey of transformation, okay? Because it's coming whether we like it or know it or not. There you go. All right, I hope I didn't scare you away. So there's your mini reading, dear Love Triber. Thank you very much. All right, so that's it. Let me just check a couple of things here. I'm going to do some hold on. I'm going to do some background work here to see if I've got the show running properly. I got to check a couple things. Ba-doop-ba-doop-doop-ba-doop. Okay. Hold on, let me just double check everything here. Okay. All right, let's put that over here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's what a little mini reading looks like. If you want to, you're too shy to do it live in person on camera here Sunday night, you can go private. I do offer full services. Over here, like I said earlier, have a look. You can go to TarotLumination.com. You can connect with me over there. You can pay for and schedule your reading from there. You can choose tarot or astrology or both. I need to know the payment is cleared, and then I need astrological birth data and so on, depending on the scale of the reading. Hold on, we have a visitor. Oh, look. Hello, Bubba. Oh, boy. There we go. Thank you, Love Triber. Thank you for visiting, Bubba. Thanks for having a beautiful, delicious food coma and allowing me to do my little show here. Of course, all of this is for entertainment purposes only. I'm not a doctor. Oh yes, I'm just looking at your notes there, Garnet. At Yorkshire, of course, yes. Also Scotland and Wales and Ireland. Yes, very distinctive. It's amazing. You can really get fairly precise. Like in America, you can sort of do that. Like you can sort of pinpoint if somebody's from the South or the Deep South here in America, like Alabama or, I don't know, Louisiana, Mississippi. Or you can tell when they're from Boston or Manhattan, or whether they're from, I don't know, it's difficult because also there's a lot of cultures here as well. You know, there's the African American culture, the Hispanic American culture, the white, whatever you call it, white Christian culture. There's a small Muslim culture community, Indian, Asian, Chinese, Philippine. I mean, you know, when you do something, a job at the government, and you have to go into the government services, and they have to send you a letter, they are obliged to send you a notification that if you need a translator, you can ask for one. And then they show you 2 pages of paper that show all the languages that they have to deal with. There's about 20 different languages. Of course, America is an English-speaking country, but there's a lot of people here that are, you know, can barely speak English at all. And it's sort of, so it's a very different thing over here. But in England, when I lived there, basically everybody spoke English, and it was all about the accent. You could pinpoint things very accurately. Okie dokes. Let's have a look. Oh, I've just realized something else, Garnet. You have a double-barreled name. That means you're special. That means you're upper class. You're definitely upper class. Yes. Especially since you like your nice cup of tea. Yep. All right, that's it. Cards are reshuffled for next time. All right, we're gonna... Oh, there you go. That's an example of a mini tarot reading. I can do much bigger ones as well. You know, love and relationships, marriage, the journey of your soul, all these kinds of things. Finance, health, family, whatever it is. We do it all here. So I invite anyone who's here tonight, please come and visit during the week, because I do a show on Rumble. It's TarotLumination on Rumble, not YouTube. And I do it on Rumble because I can speak openly. I can speak my mind. I'm not heavily censored. I'm not, you know, my YouTube channel has been completely obliterated. I mean, I can do this, but otherwise the channel is, it's lived its life. So, I mean, the channel exists. I can keep it going for years, but there is no way to do anything with the channel because the algorithm has been tuned in such a way to keep TarotLumination like this. I used to be able to earn my living here. That's all gone. Thanks, YouTube. Thanks to the algorithms and AI. Thanks to the concept of being guilty until proven innocent. There we go. I'll let you ponder on that. I'm going to say goodnight to everybody. Please make the best of the eclipses. If you need to reach out, connect with me. I showed you TarotLumination.com, and we'll figure things out. And come over tomorrow night, Monday night. Hopefully, God willing, I'll be there and I'll be able to do some a little bit more in-depth astrology. Because we're heading in a whole new chapter right now. We're going through in a very, very, very awkward period in astrology. But we're going to deal with it because we have the ability to see the details. Where are the bumps in the road? Where are the ways that we can navigate through all the challenges? Yeah, so there you go. Take care, everybody. Good night.